You can never go back. Struggle to survive. You're still alive. Even if you're being beside, tell your dreams again. Even if you can't forget, take a quick look and settle your regrets. Laying out the bricks now, as if you need a wall. Just like the wall. Your bones are not even broken yet. So push yourself through without your regret. If you're being sad, even if you're being sad, tell your dreams again. Even if you can't forget, take a quick look and settle your regret.
What's up, guys? Chris with Croft CNC. It is Friday, January 22nd. Today's a little bit of a rough day. It's been a rough couple of days. And it's been getting really weird for me. So it is what it is. But today is Shut the F Up Friday. And figured I'd do a little bit of some deeper dive into control boxes and what they are, what they do, and different builds and stuff like that. Before we do that, I want to give a shout out to a page here. Let me bring him up. Share screen. This is Michael Meslick, I think is how you pronounce his last name. But he does some awesome 3D carving tutorials. They go into great detail and a bunch of different aspects of it, and just in general, he does some really good stuff. We've been trying to follow along with everything, and so far it's been a great tutorial page. I would say he's on par with Steve Lindsay in the information that he puts out as far as 3D carving and everything. And then we reached out to him and tried to get him on the show, but he's got a pretty packed schedule. He is a local PA boy, but his schedule is pretty packed, so I doubt we'll be able to get him on the show. But if you could go over, give him a subscribe and ring that notification bell for him. He does some great work, and I want to see him blow up a lot more. So that's that. So control boxes for CNC machines can be as complex or as rudimentary as you want them to be. I know control boxes that have been built from 2020 extrusion. I know control boxes that have been built from acrylic. I know of control boxes that have been built in wood. I've personally built all of those. And one of the first control boxes that I built, I actually built in a Tupperware tub. You guys have seen the pictures of the Siege X2 mini mill that I built, and that thing, it was what it was. You know, it was get it done, protect it, and be done with it. Obviously, if I had it to do over again, I would. Coffee this morning is regular Folgers. But anyways, if I had it to do over again, I would, and I probably will redo that control panel as soon as I get the want and the time to do it. I have a lot of the parts here for it. I mean, I don't have an e-stop on it. I don't have a lot of the spectacular power supply stuff on it and everything like that. It's really a very rude, crude, get it together control panel. And eventually I'm going to have to redo it. I just don't know when. I thought I had to sneeze there for a second. So what is a control panel and what is in a control panel is sometimes a big question. This is a control panel in a NEMA electronic protective box. you have the drivers here on a heat sink. These are Gecko drivers. You have a Turtle power supply. You have, this is the transformer, this is the converter logic, and this is the capacitor for it. You have the breakout board here, and then you can't really see a lot in this one as far as what all's in it, but like this one has the Turtle power supply, and then it has a separate power supply here. And I would assume that's probably a 5-volt logic power supply. These are the stepper drivers. This is the VFD controller for the spindle of some sort. This is probably an e-stop. You have different relays, solid state relays. Down here are the connectors. But you could see a lot of this stuff looks very intimidating, but it's really not. Let me see here. There. A lot of the stuff on this, you have power supplies. This is probably a 5-volt, a 12-volt, and then what I would assume would be like a 36-volt power supply, probably like a 15 amp, probably a 1 to 2 amp, and probably a 1 to 2 amp. Breakout board. I'm not sure. This might be a USB logic converter, maybe. I see the power supply going into that one. Or maybe that's an RJ45 connector. But in any event, you know, you got your fans, you got your contact relays and stuff like that. So these are pretty advanced enclosures with wiring runs all set up and separated out and everything. This is a simple, this was actually from Probotics. And I have one of these kits. I have one of Lex's original kits from the first gen. So in there, it's typically just a power supply. Power supply comes out, gives a fuse block. It feeds the breakout board, the 3-stepper drivers. The drivers drive the motors. You have an e-stop hookup, and you have limit switch hookup. So these really aren't anything major. Like I said, this is what I have in my Tupperware tub out in the shop. These things, they seem very intimidating until you get to hooking them up, and then they're really nothing as far as connectors and everything. And then you can go back and actually make them look much better. So here's a simple control box that these are what are called GX16 aviation connectors or locking connectors. This is what's called an e-stop mushroom button. And most of the time, these are used because they're a large button. You can slap it and shut everything down quickly. But this one has a DB25 parallel port connector. That's kind of out. It's good technology, but it's kind of outdated on modern pre-bought computers. Typically, you're running into. Good morning, Copperhead. How are you? Typically, you're running into USB now, and that's where like your smooth steppers and your UC100, UC300, and products of that nature come in, where they convert this to a USB, and they have their own onboard microprocessor. And we'll look at that in just a second. But when you're building a control panel, this rat's nest of wiring really needs to be thought out well and placed correctly. You don't want your 110 or 220 power covering over your signal wires. And the reason is you can get RF noise or EMI noise, and it can falsely trigger certain aspects of what the machine controller is trying to do. And whenever that happens, you pretty much have no other option than to rebuild the box. One of the things that I like to do now, whenever I first started, was I just threw everything in, zip-tied wires to try and get it to look right. What I like to do now is I route all my power wires on one side. So any of the 110 power and any of the 36 volt, 24 volt, 12 volt, 5 volt, anything like that goes on one side. And what I like to do is I 3D print wire separators so I can separate out a 110 wire system. Sorry, guys. Like I said, it's been rough. I got pain that just takes my breath away. Anyways, I like the 3D print connectors, wire separators that will separate out all of the wires, and I'll be able to route them all on one side of the control box. So you don't have stuff like this where it's all just going in there. You don't have wire panels like this where everything's crossing over. These are pretty elementary wiring systems. This one's pretty good because the power wire comes out here and goes over. These ribbon cable jumpers jump right over to the drivers, so you have some separation there. You have what looks to be a power output here, but it's not too terribly bad. But then I've seen people that take it to the extreme also. And one of the people that does that is, I think his name is Evan. And it's Corvette Guy 50 on YouTube. And if you want to talk about an exceptional build quality on a control box, that guy has it figured out. He does all kinds of control boxes, but he does them in such a way that everything is modular and everything is able to be traced and routed the proper ways. And he gives his knowledge away pretty freely, I would say. But like this is a nice control panel. The power wires are down underneath and then have short runs, and they're separated from the feed wires. It looks to be maybe not. Maybe no, those have to be the crossover power wires, and then it looks like the driver wires come out from there, and those might be the capacitor wires, the enable wires. And then I'm not sure where the wire runs are. But like this one looks great. If you look, all the wires are ran to a central terminal block. The signal wires and all the computer components are over on this side. All the power is over on this side, and they're separated by DIN rail connectors. So they're easily serviceable and they're easily rerouted to make sure everything runs the way that it should and where it should. Everything runs in here, back out into here. Okay. Then I'm not quite sure how they would run the power run unless they were coming out here around and back, or over here and up. But it looks like they might need to have a little bit better planning out for the power run so it doesn't cross over. But all in all, that looks like a really good power supply signal wire setup. And this one is from Phil Johnson, designs by Phil. And he does a Demon controller, which you can find on the CNC for Newbies machines. You can order it, or you can order a Demon controller to control any Gerbil CNC machine. But he has everything really well thought out and kind of separated out into power runs and signal wire runs and everything like that. Very little crossover, and very little chance of electronic interference. Copperhead says that they used to have really good wiring runs in their building. It can get really hectic and technical at times. You know, I'm a firm believer now. It used to be just get it in and get it done. And now I look at something like this and it looks beautiful to me because they took the time to run all the power wires in the center, and then they'll probably have some type of upper run of signal wires to separate everything out. You know, I've never seen an ID2 control box put together, but they typically have a really great machine. So I doubt that they would cheap out on anything with that. All-in-one system. This is kind of a rat's nest of stuff. You have crossovers of signal wires and everything. This one, they tried to run it pretty good, but it looks like there's one 10 volt or 220 volt power supply right next to what looks to be signal wires. This one was a really nice looking setup to separate everything out for voltages and signal wires and power wires and everything like that. So these are just some of the things that I look at when I want to build a control unit. And then also, do I want a separate control unit from the computer, or do I want an all-in-one? A lot of the computers today, well, a lot of the control boxes today, you can build with an internal computer, with a single board, slim format computer. And you basically can add a monitor and keyboard to the control box and a jump drive, and you can have an all-in-one control box and computer. For a lot of the machines that I have, all the machines that I have in the shop right now, I have for all the machines in the shop right now, I have for all the machines in the shop right now, I have a separate computer and control box. And what that allows me to do is separate out the computer control from the CNC control. So if something goes bad in the computer, I can buy a $50 Dell computer off of Facebook Marketplace and be able to plug it in and run my machine just by adding the software in. The downside to something of that nature is it's very easy to unplug machines and plug them in other places and do other things with that computer if you need. Okay. The Gerbil control systems are really nice because they're small and you can basically plug a laptop into them, and then you can take your laptop back inside and design on that. no harm, no foul, whatever the case may be. For the integrated computer systems, the pros are a small format box, so you don't have as big of a control box or as many pieces floating around, and it's pretty seamless. You plug the thumb drive in and you operate. You open up the program in the sender and send it away. Machine runs. Yep. Copperhead says he bought an NUC computer and it was right inside the panel. The downside to the integrated computer is if the computer goes bad, you've got to do a lot more transferring unless you network, and some of these computer programs will not let you network a computer because of copyright or licensing infringements. On top of that, if the computer goes bad, you have to take apart everything in the control box that's connected to the computer. The computer itself the new computer may be bigger or smaller and not match up with the area that you have available. The downside to the standalone computer with control panel is you have more stuff floating around. You have more external wiring to trip over, to pull out, to interfere with. You lay an extension cord across a data cable, you may get interference or stuff like that. So those are some things to think about. You got your wiring runs and you got the actual integrated separate computer decision. And then, you've got to choose what wiring, and are you going to solder, or are you going to make slip connections, or how are you going to connect your wiring, and what wiring are you going to use? I prefer to use braided shielded in any of my signal wires because I can drain off electrical noise. And when you're able to drain off electrical noise, you can avoid a lot of the pitfalls of the machine not quite acting right. You can also add in iron ferrites to help block and drain off some of the noise. The external case consideration has a lot to do with conductivity and heat. Try and dissipate that heat as much as possible. All of these look pretty good. This is an all-in-one Arduino Nano control board, power supply, and stepper driver board. This little thing is probably only 4 inches by 5 inches, maybe. They're the stepper drivers. The the Arduino Nano runs on 5-volt logic. So you can get the power from the USB on the computer, and then it basically just outputs. It has some diodes and transistors and step ups and step down drivers for electricity that will output to the motors. You'll get about 1 amp of output to the motors, maybe upwards of 2 if you're lucky, with a separate power supply. But these are pretty entry level for 3D printers and light run CNC routers. This is an Arduino Uno. So you have a lot of different things to look at when making these control panels, and different options to look at, locations. Where is it going to be put? Is it going on a mill? If it's going on a mill or a router that can do aluminum, you got to worry about flood coolant or mist coolant. So it's got to be waterproofed or water resistant. There are a ton of things to look at for these that you have to, you really have to take into account when you're building these control panels. I'm going to bring up let's see here. These are that's not it. That's not it either. There we go. Here's his YouTube page. If you go here and you go to the videos, this guy has some awesome wiring videos, and really goes in and shows you and lets you understand the different issues with building control panels. He helps set up a lot of different aspects for you. And he shows you a lot of things that you can understand on these, in terms of like using different breakouts and stuff like that, different controllers, different drivers, different connectivity issues that you might have. He goes through a lot of this, and he builds custom control panels for you if you want it. But he shows how to make a wire, a signal wire with the connectors, the bulletproof EMI connection. That is right there one of the best videos that he's put out. This talks about the ferrite installs. I mean, this video library is fantastic on so many levels that new guys, new ladies really need to take a look at this and understand what's going on inside your control panel, so that you know how to how to fix it whenever it goes down, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But he has great information that, it just one thing after another. He does a lot of custom 3D printed pieces, custom connectors and things like that I really wish more people took the time to look at and understand when they build a control panel. His is not the cheapest version. I can't say that it's the best version, but let me tell you, this thing is awesome. I mean, if you look at this video here, his wire runs are immaculate, in my opinion. All the power wires are zip tied together. The signal wires are ran in such a way that they can easily be traced and separated. He tries to put as much separation between power and signal wire as possible. And he tries to make it as compact as possible. He takes into account the heating of the box and the venting. So it has fans set up in the right way to actually cool the drivers and extract heat from the box itself. He shows how to hook up different relays to control different aspects. It is a great channel to actually learn how to hook up a lot of this stuff. So that's where we go with it. And that's your show for today. I'm going to hop off here because I'm not feeling well. So I will talk to you guys later.